What's up, Potterheads, and welcome back to All the Things Harry Potter. It's the alcohol-fueled, chapter-by-chapter commentary on the Harry Potter series. I'm Nate.
I'm Jade.
And I'm Aaron.
That's right. This week, we have a guest.
Woohoo.
Aaron came over earlier this week to record an episode for our All the Things Sort of Truth series. You should go check it out. And we decided to have him back for our Harry Potter series because James and Chantel are still unable to be here.
Very happy to be back. First time on this podcast, but to be back in the All the Things podcast network. And hoping James and Chantel a speedy recovery and hope everything's well and hope they come back because I like listening to them better than I like listening to myself. So,
Well, we have fun with all of you, so thanks for being here. I'm going to get right into some news. I don't have a whole lot this week, but Pottery Barn Teen just released a Fantastic Beasts collection, so there's a whole bunch of, magical bedroom stuff that you can purchase on there. It's centered around, blues and metallics and whites, and there's a lot of different magical creatures in there, obviously, because it's a Fantastic Beasts collection, and it's a lot of fun. I found a lot of really cool stuff on there that I will probably never be able to buy.
Hold on, though. You don't know. This podcast could take off at any moment.
Mm-hmm. If anyone wants to fund my Fantastic Beasts collection, go right ahead. I would love that.
was that a Patreon plug?
I think it might have been. I could totally buy this stuff for you guys and, showcase it for you on our various social medias if you became a Patreon. Also, the Wizarding World has launched officially, and there's a lot of quizzes on there. I'm super excited to get into all of that.
You haven't done the quiz yet to find your house out, have you?
No, I do know way back when Pottermore first came out, I signed up for it, and I took the quiz, and I'm pretty sure I got Gryffindor. But like you guys have said on previous podcasts, I'm pretty sure I either consciously or subconsciously game the system every time. I never feel like I'm yeah, no, I definitely answered all those questions truthfully. I'm nah, that's the Gryffindor answer. That's the which one? Yeah, okay, I'll do that one.
Yeah, you kind of gauge which house you think each answer falls into, and that's the one you pick. I did the same thing, and I kept getting the house that I didn't want. Yes, I tried multiple times.
Yeah, earlier tonight I started answering just, from my heart. And then I was I don't know what's happening. And so I just exited because I got real, panicked. It's I don't know if I like this. And then I just exited.
You were too truthful. When I finally started answering the questions the way that my instincts told me to answer them, I actually ended up with a house that I wanted in the first place, which means that's the house that I actually belong in, which is Hufflepuff. What up, Puff and Puff?
So question, how sober have you guys been when you take these tests? Maybe the key to these tests is doing them on a Saturday night at 2 a.m. when you're 8 beers in, because it's a lot harder to censor yourself when it's that late and you've taken that many beer breaks from this wonderful podcast.
Now that is a very good theory. I feel like we're all a lot more confident after 6 beers.
I don't know if I'd go with confident. We're all a little more Gryffindor-y when we're drunk, I think. But that's not necessarily a good thing.
And that's all the news I have for you guys today. So we can get right into the book.
In this chapter, Harry accidentally falls into a creepy alley. Then everyone goes shopping. And we get to find out how much like their dads, Ron and Draco, really are.
So Harry's noticing how different Privet Drive is from the Burrow. The Burrow has a whole bunch of shit going on. Talking mirrors, ghouls, explosions from the twins' room, and everybody likes him, which is a totally different thing than he's used to.
I like the way that they describe this because it's like house sounds that you're used to. You know, pipes creaking, maybe the dog running around upstairs, or the children when you're trying to record. But in this house, these are all still normal and comforting house sounds, probably to the Weasleys.
Right.
Very different than a Muggle house.
And he actually has parents that are fussing over him and trying to feed him instead of trying to deprive him of shit. Mr. Weasley wants him to sit next to him and talk to him about Muggles. It was a little bit interesting to me, though, that he wanted to talk about things like plugs and postal service and phones when his job is the misuse of Muggle artifacts office. So you would think that, like, part of his job is researching this kind of shit?
Right. It would be to know about things like this.
Because how do you know if it's the misuse of Muggle artifacts if you don't know what they're originally used for? Now, the other thing I thought about it was we kind of, throughout the series, and especially this chapter, we kind of start getting the idea that Arthur's a good dad. And maybe this is a sign of Arthur's good parenting skills. He's just trying to make Harry feel comfortable. Hey, can you tell me about the things that are normal to you? You didn't grow up in a wizarding house. This is the most outrageous wizarding house ever in the history of wizarding houses. Tell me about the post office. Like, trying to make the kid feel more comfortable.
You know, that's a really good way to look at it. It does go on to say a little bit that Arthur talks to any Muggle he can, I was going to say get his hands on, but that's not really the right thing. Anybody he can find to ask them how regular life goes on without the use of magic.
So the letters from school arrive about a week after they get there. They are addressed in green ink again, and Dumbledore knows he was there.
Which, how does Dumbledore know that Harry is at the Weasleys' house? Could it be that somewhere in this dirty cluster of a Weasley household that there is a chocolate frog Dumbledore card watching all this happening? Shout out James.
Apparently, he's carrying one in his pocket, because he always does.
I mean, I'm not going to lie. At this point, it is pretty feasible that they've got one in the house somewhere. Jade's giving me a look that could freeze anything, pretty much. But no, in this instance, yeah, they could totally have a Dumbledore card sitting somewhere. Harry might not have one in his pocket, but he's at a wizarding house now that has a much greater chance of just happening to have one sitting in a drawer somewhere. Not saying it's inarguable, but it's possible.
You know what? I'm going to give this one to you guys / James, because I don't have a reasonable way that I know that Dumbledore knew.
I mean, I think there is a reasonable way, and it's probably that Arthur or Molly sent him a letter and was like, hey, Harry's staying with us for the rest of the summer.
But aren't they the ones that say that Dumbledore always knows somehow?
Actually, I think I got this one, guys. I'm going to counter-argue my own point. I know, but no, I'm thinking about this a little further, and Harry's first Hogwarts letter found him before he had anything to do with anything magic. Damn sure before he had a chocolate frog card in his pocket, and the letter still found him. So it is definitely not because of the chocolate frog card theory that this letter found him.
This time.
But they were able to find him without that, for sure, before.
Like, how do the owls find people that the letters are addressed to?
Maybe there's just some sort of magical tracking that, like, if you're enrolled into Hogwarts, it's some kind of magic spell that when they access it, but it can't be abused, because then you're talking about government oversight. And that's, I mean, then we're just getting into a whole nother podcast. Maybe there's ways to magically track people, and they're just doing it in a very wholesome manner.
The same way that all the owls are trained to not poop inside of Hogwarts.
Exactly.
The book list is filled with books titled with alliteration by Lockhart, which is super clever on his part because it's super easy to remember all of his names.
All of the alliteration is for animals, right? How to deal with different magical creatures is a majority of them.
Yeah, vampires aren't animals, though.
Well, if these are transforming vampires that can do the bat transformation, I just want, if we're going to do this podcast, we need to be serious about it. And you guys just casually throwing out that vampires are not people when there is vampires in the Harry Potter universe. You guys need to check your privilege at the door.
Oh, fuck.
Dumbledore has a chocolate frog card. Deal with it.
Wait, where the hell were we?
Lockhart's books.
A majority of the books that the kids have this year all have to do with creatures. Looking at you, buddy.
Thank you.
Creatures of a magical sort. When last year they had things like Hogwarts A History, Charms, Defense Against the Dark Arts, which I believe is still a subject, but why so many books about animals? The reason that I thought that was interesting is because last year, the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher had a real fucking problem with magical creatures. And so I was like, this year, they need like 15 fucking books about magical creatures. And the teacher wasn't able to solve the problem last year, so the students must need to be. I wonder if maybe that's a little bit of Dumbledore insight or what. So you know he is wise on those things.
So you're thinking this new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher was told, hey, cover the animals, those have been a problem, or was the new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher going, hey, I heard about your problems, here's my suggested curriculum, are you approving it? And they were like, yeah, no, yeah, go ahead.
I kind of think so.
Either way, they're assholes because apparently they're really fucking expensive books and each of the kids needs a whole fucking set, which I feel like is weird.
Yeah, because like we kind of were talking about year one. For Charms class, you needed one book on Charms. For your history class, you needed one book on history. All of a sudden, you need 5 books for Defense Against the Dark Arts?
Here's my point. It's mentioned a couple times in the chapter that all the kids need a set. And my whole point on this is, if more than one of my kids needed a set of books, fuck you. I'm buying one. And when your class is, you give them to, like, you get them. When your sister's class is, you fucking give your sister the book, okay?
And if you have the class at the same time, you share.
For real.
Because there's only one Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher. So it's not like you're going to have 2 different teachers using the same book and, you know, one twin needs it in one class, one twin needs it in the other. They're going to be in the same class, or they're at different times. So, yeah, sharing theory.
100%. The twins get to share a book, then you pass it to Jenny, then you pass it to Ron, then you pass it to Percy, or whatever. I don't care. Somebody doesn't get a book one year. I'm not buying 5 sets of books. No fucking way. I'm cheap.
Well, and Mrs. Weasley says that they will manage somehow. And it makes a comment about how Harry notices her face when she says it. She looks uncomfortable. She looks upset. She looks like she's faking it, trying to be confident that they're gonna be okay. And it's got to remind him a little bit about his big-ass vault of money in Gringotts.
And it's Ginny's first year.
A lot of times, I don't have kids, so you guys can back me up, but a lot of times, you know, first year doing something, you go school shopping, you want to get something nice for your kid, you know, and when you've got a bunch of kids and you got to stretch money, you're not really, it's harder to do that stuff. It's harder to justify doing that.
Right. First day, you might get something that looks nice. The rest of the year, whatever, I don't care. That sounds like an asshole thing. But yeah, no, first time you do something, you definitely want to give the kids the best foot forward.
Also, before we get too far, there was a quick quote by one of the twins about how the new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher must be a witch. All these books are by Gilderoy Lockhart. Maybe this must be, if he's got a bunch of books, must be a successful dude, must be a good-looking dude. Maybe the new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher has just got the hots.
Well, we know that middle-aged women have the hots for him. So they find Errol just, like, chilling in a chair underneath Percy's ass. And he has a letter from Hermione, but I thought it was funny that he was laying in a chair and he didn't deliver the letter. Nobody noticed that he flew in the house and was laying on a chair. And he won't stand on his perch either. He just falls off of it.
Well, and Ron retrieves the letter from Hermione, and then he's looking at him and is like, ugh, pathetic. I'm like, hang on a second. Percy just sat on Errol. He was hidden, laying so low in the chair that you couldn't see him. Percy walks in, morning everybody, because he's all businesslike and shit, being prefect. Sits on the fucking owl.